My family used me as an ATM for years, so I cut them off and left them facing not getting a single cent of my grandfather's estate. I'm a 32-year-old guy named Ryan, and for as long as I can remember, my family has struggled with money. Growing up, things were tight, hand-me-down clothes, bargain bin groceries, and constant talk about making ends meet. My parents, both in their mid-60s now, never really planned for retirement. They scraped by, living paycheck to paycheck, assuming things would somehow work out. Spoiler, they didn't. I, on the other hand, was determined to never end up in that situation. I worked my ass off, got into tech, and now, after years of grinding, I make six figures. It wasn't easy. Scholarships, side gigs, insane work hours. I did whatever it took to climb out of the financial mess I was born into, and for a while, I felt proud of myself. I thought my success meant I could help my family have a better life. But looking back, I realized I was just their golden ticket. It started small. When I landed my first decent-paying job, I didn't mind picking up the check when we went out to eat. Then it turned into covering birthdays, then flights for family visits, then full-blown vacations. At some point, it became an unspoken rule. I was the one who paid for everything. My older brother, 35, and younger sister, 28, never pitched in, not once, even when they were working, even when it was something small like groceries for the trip. There was always an excuse. Oh, I forgot my wallet. I'll Venmo you later. Things are just tight right now. It got to the point where even my parents stopped pretending. They'd send me links to vacation rentals or flights, without even asking if I was okay with paying. Last year was the worst. My mom found a massive holiday home, beachfront, multiple bedrooms, the kind of place you'd see in a luxury travel ad. She sent the link in the family group chat like it was already decided. This looks perfect. Let's book it before it fills up. My siblings immediately started talking about what dates worked best for them. No one even asked if I was covering it. I was stupid enough to go along with it. The price tag? Thousands. I hesitated, but when I brought up costs, my dad just said, "We deserve to have a nice Christmas together." My mom, well, she got teary-eyed. "It's the only time we all get to be together. You don't want to ruin that, do you?" So, I paid. Again. That trip was hell. My brother and sister treated it like an all-expenses-paid resort. They never cleaned up, never even offered to pick up groceries. The one time I suggested we split the cost of a dinner, my brother laughed and said, "Man, come on, you make more in a month than I do in a year." By the time we left, I was done. I told myself I'd never do this again. A few months later, as the holidays started creeping up again, I decided to set a boundary. In the group chat, I made it clear, I can't cover everything this year. If we want to do a trip, we need to split costs fairly. The reaction was immediate. My mom sent a long message about how she was heartbroken that I didn't want to be part of the family traditions anymore. My dad called me selfish. My sister said I was acting rich. My brother? He just dropped a passive-aggressive, "Wow, must be nice to forget where you came from." Then, silence. A few days later, I realized I had been removed from the group chat entirely. No explanation, no response to my messages, just gone. I tried to brush it off. I told myself they just needed time to adjust, that maybe they'd come around. They didn't. Weeks later, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. A post from my sister, a group picture, smiling faces, the caption, "Best Christmas ever." And there it was, the vacation, same luxury rental style, same kind of trip, only this time, I wasn't in it. They must have saved up throughout the year or taken out a loan to afford it, something they never did when I was around to cover the bill. I checked the tags, my parents, my brother, my sister, all there. I scrolled through their posts, pictures of the house, the meals, the gifts. They went without me. No one had said a word, no invitation, no heads up, nothing. They just cut me out. I texted my mom, asking what was going on. Hours later, she replied, "We didn't want to burden you." That's when it hit me. It was never about family, never about spending time together. It was about money, my money. And the second I stopped funding their lifestyle, I became disposable. I sat there, staring at my phone, remembering all the times I had bent over backward to make sure they had a good holiday, all the times I had covered for them, the thousands of dollars I had spent. And this was what I got in return. I thought about how, even as a kid, I had always been expected to help out more. How my parents had drilled into me that since I was the smart one, I had a responsibility to take care of everyone. And I realized I had spent my entire life trying to earn their approval, thinking that if I just gave enough, they would finally treat me like family. But they never saw me as family, just a wallet. So maybe it was time to stop chasing something I was never going to get. Christmas came and went, then New Year's. Not a single text, no calls, no half-hearted Merry Christmas, Not even a generic forwarded holiday greeting. Silence. For years, I had been the one making the holidays happen, paying for flights, booking the rental, covering the food, the gifts, the whole experience. And now that I wasn't, it was like I didn't exist. I didn't reach out either. There was nothing to say. In mid-January, my phone buzzed with a message from my brother. First time hearing from him since they cut me out of the family trip. No small talk, no pretense. Just straight to the point, "Hey man, need a favor. It's kind of an emergency." I stared at the message. No mention of the holidays, no acknowledgement of what had happened, just a sudden reappearance when he needed something. I kept my response neutral. "Hope you're doing okay." No offer, no follow-up. Just a polite, distant reply. Less than a minute later, another message popped up. "Wow, so you're really cutting us off completely?" No explanation of what the emergency was. No attempt at a real conversation. Just immediate guilt-tripping. I put my phone down. A few hours later, my mom called. Her voice was tight, forced, like she had been holding on to frustration for weeks. "I just can't believe you would let things get this bad over a couple of dollars," she said. I didn't say anything. She kept going, switching tactics. "Your brother and sister had to scrape together what little they had just to afford that trip. It broke my heart to see them struggling just to have a family Christmas." That got my attention. They scraped together money for that trip? The same trip at a luxury vacation rental. The one where they looked perfectly happy in all their Instagram photos, sipping cocktails and posing on a private beach? I didn't argue. There was no point. Later that night, I messaged my cousin, the only person in the family who wasn't constantly trying to use me. He confirmed what I already suspected. The trip wasn't just the same as the ones I used to pay for. It was even fancier, more expensive, nicer location, higher end, everything. They could afford it. They just never wanted to when I was around to foot the bill. I called my mom back the next day and told her straight, "I'm not paying for anything anymore. Ever." She didn't take it well. First the stunned silence, then the disbelief, then the crying. "I don't even recognize you anymore. It's like I've lost my son," she said. Then the texts started coming in from my siblings, long-winded guilt trips about how I had changed, how they never thought I'd turn my back on family. I muted the group chat. The quiet was strange. I kept waiting for the usual cycle, the emotional manipulation, the sudden "let's forget about this" messages when they realized I wouldn't budge. But this time, there was nothing. A week later, my cousin reached out, short message, "Good for you." Turns out, I wasn't the only one who had noticed how my family treated me. Other relatives saw the way they used me, they just never said anything. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying their financial burdens. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The silence didn't last long. A week after I cut them off financially, my sister started posting cryptic Facebook statuses. Nothing direct, nothing with my name, but the kind of passive-aggressive messages that made it clear who she was talking about. Crazy how some people forget where they came from. Money changes people. Some of us still believe in family over selfishness. The comments were worse. Friends and distant relatives chiming in with sympathy, acting like she was the victim of some great betrayal. "You don't need fake people in your life," someone wrote. "Family is everything," another person added. I ignored it. Let them talk. Then I got added back into the family group chat. It wasn't a warm welcome. The second I opened it, I saw paragraph after paragraph from my dad. Long rants about family values and how money should never come between blood. Something about how true success isn't about wealth, but about giving back to those who raised you. My mom jumped in too, talking about sacrifice, how much she and dad had done for me, and how disappointed they were in the person I'd become. Then my brother piled on. "It's not about the money," he wrote. "It's about how you just threw everything in our faces." I stared at the messages. None of them acknowledged what really happened, that they had used me for years, that they had no problem enjoying vacations and gifts as long as I was paying. But the second I stopped, I was shut out. I asked one question: "Why did you go on vacation without me?" The group chat exploded. My sister claimed it was never planned that way, that I had isolated myself, that they just didn't think I wanted to go. My mom said they had to adjust since I wasn't paying, and that it was a difficult situation. My dad repeated the same thing about family loyalty, how I should want to help them, how it was my duty, like it was an obligation. I left the chat. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing with texts. My brother, my sister, even some distant relatives who had clearly been recruited. "Family sticks together. You should be ashamed. How can you turn your back on the people who raised you?" Then the final message from my mom: "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me?" I blocked her number. My brother and sister followed shortly after. The only person I didn't block was my dad. I told myself it was because he hadn't directly asked me for money, hadn't pushed as hard as the others, but the truth was, I wanted to see if he'd reach out, if he'd say anything different. He didn't. Nothing. No messages, no calls, just silence. A few weeks later, I booked a therapy session, not because I felt bad about cutting them off, but because I wanted to understand why it took me this long, why I had let myself be guilted into playing their game for years. The therapist didn't tell me anything I didn't already know, that I had been conditioned to feel responsible for them, that they didn't see me as a son or a brother but as a financial safety net, that their love had always been conditional. For the first time in my life, I wasn't responsible for anyone else's problems. No last-minute requests for money, no passive-aggressive texts about helping the family, no stress about another expensive holiday I'd have to fund. For Christmas, I took a solo trip. No five-star resort, no over-the-top spending, just something simple, a quiet cabin, some good books, no stress. And as I sat there, no endless family demands, no guilt-tripping messages, I realized something. I didn't miss them, not even a little. A few weeks after the smear campaign died down, I thought I was finally free. No guilt-tripping texts, no cryptic social media posts, no distant relatives trying to drag me back in. The silence was nice. Then I got a bill in the mail. At first I thought it was junk. Some random company I didn't recognize, one of those fake final notice letters. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. I couldn't understand how they were still using my money while constantly claiming they were broke. It was for a family phone plan, one I hadn't used in years. The total? Nearly $600. I checked the details. Apparently, I was still listed as the primary account holder, meaning the bill had been coming out of my name this entire time. The charges weren't even mine. Multiple lines, expensive data plans, insurance add-ons. My parents had been using my name to keep their phones running, and I had been paying for it without even realizing it. I called the phone company immediately. After some back and forth, they confirmed it. My parents had never removed my name from the account. When I asked why I was just getting the bill now, the rep told me my autopay had been removed last month, which is why the bill was being sent directly to me now. I hadn't removed autopay, someone else did. So, after years of paying for their phone plans without knowing, the second I cut them off financially, they stopped hiding it. I called my mom. The second she picked up, her tone was fake sweet, like she had been expecting me to cave and come crawling back. I got straight to the point, asked her why I was still being charged for their phone bills. She acted surprised. "Oh, I thought you knew. You never complained before." I didn't bother arguing. I canceled the entire account right there on the call with the phone company. Every line under my name gone. Not even 10 minutes later, my brother's name popped up on my screen. I let it go to voicemail. The text came next. That was Dad's phone. Now he has no service. Hope you're happy. I didn't respond. Instead, I started going through my bank statements. If they had been sneaking this charge under my name, what else had they been doing? I scrolled back years, and there it was, a recurring charge, same amount every few months. The description vague, something generic, like family emergency fund. It had been coming out of my account automatically. I called my bank, asked for details. It was an account my parents controlled. They had been pulling money out of my account for years. I had never agreed to it, never even knew it existed. The total? Thousands. I called my parents again, asked them directly about it. My mom didn't deny it. Instead, she laughed, like it was no big deal. "Oh, we thought you wanted to help. You never said anything before, like I was supposed to just accept it." I told her to send me the money back. She scoffed, then came the gaslighting. "It's not like we were stealing, it was for the family. You know we struggle. Why are you making a big deal over a little money?" "A little money?" I told her straight. "This is theft. If you don't pay me back, I'll take legal action." Silence, then came the backpedaling. Suddenly, she was in victim mode. "I can't believe you do this to your own family. After everything we've been through, you're really going to turn on us over a couple of dollars?" I asked my brother and sister if they knew about this, if they had any idea our parents had been taking my money behind my back. Neither of them answered. Minutes passed, then my sister left the group chat. My brother responded hours later. His message was short. "We didn't think you'd care. They had known, and they had let it happen. That was it." I sent one final message. "If any of you ever take money from me again without my consent, I'll go to the police." Then I blocked them all. Blocking my family didn't end things. It only made them escalate. It started with my brother. He was furious, full meltdown. Somehow he managed to get my new number and left a voicemail. screaming about how I was a traitor and an ungrateful brat who abandoned his family. He didn't mention the fact that they had been stealing from me, didn't bring up the years I had paid for everything, just that I was the bad guy now. My sister took a different approach. She sent an email, the subject line, "I didn't know." The message itself was all over the place. She tried playing both sides, acting innocent, like she had no idea our parents were taking that much money from me. She wrote that she thought I didn't mind, and that if she had known the full amount, she would have said something. She conveniently left out the part where she had directly benefited from it. I ignored them both. Then the calls started coming from unknown numbers. At first I didn't answer, but after the 10th or 12th one in a row, I picked up. It was my parents. They switched tactics immediately. Gone was the angry, guilt-tripping tone. This time, my mom sounded desperate. She rambled about how I was making a mistake and tearing the family apart. When I didn't respond, she dropped the act and said, "You don't want to do this. You'll regret it." I hung up. The next day, I got an alert from my bank. Someone had tried to apply for a loan in my name. I checked my credit report. It had been run multiple times. I called my bank immediately and froze everything. Credit, accounts, anything they could access. I filed a fraud report and flagged the attempted loan as identity theft. Then I made a mistake. I called my dad. I wanted to hear it from him, if he knew, if he had been involved, if there was any chance he was different from the rest of them. He picked up immediately but hesitated when I brought up the loan. He stammered through some excuse about a misunderstanding before cutting the call short. He knew. They all knew. Hours later, I got another email from my mom. No apologies, no denial, just justification. We were only borrowing, not stealing. We were going to pay it back. Borrowing? They tried to take out a loan in my name. That wasn't borrowing, that was fraud. For the first time in my life, I seriously considered pressing charges. I was angry, but more than that, I was done. This wasn't just about money anymore, it was about control. They had spent years treating me like their personal bank, and the second I refused, they tried to take it anyway. I booked a consultation with a lawyer, not just to protect myself from the fraud attempt, but to make sure they couldn't pull something like this again. I needed to know my options, restraining orders, legal action, anything. While I was dealing with that, my brother took the public smear campaign to the next level. He went online. His Facebook was filled with posts about how I had abandoned family and how I thought I was better than everyone now that I had money. He made himself the victim, twisting everything. According to him, I had cut them off without warning and refused to help during hard times. None of it was true, but people believed him. The comments were full of sympathy. "Wow, I can't believe your own brother did that to you. Money really changes people. You don't deserve this." Then I got a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. A random Facebook acquaintance. The message was short. "Hey, just so you know, your brother is telling people you stole money from your parents and left them homeless." I laughed. It was the most backward version of reality I had ever seen. Meanwhile, my cousin, the only family member still on my side, told me something interesting. My brother's credit was ruined. He had been trying to get loans and couldn't because his name was flagged for suspicious activity. I wondered why. Then I found out he had tried to use my social security number to apply for a personal loan. That was it. I filed a fraud report against my own brother. The fraud report was officially filed. Now it was out of my hands. A few days later, my bank called. The investigation had begun. They confirmed what I already knew. My brother had used my social security number to apply for a personal loan. Multiple attempts, all flagged as suspicious because I had reported it early. The financial institution had already rejected the applications. They told me the case would take a few weeks to fully process before any final actions were taken against him. That wasn't the end of it. Since it was flagged as fraud, the bank sent a report to law enforcement. It wasn't just some internal system warning anymore. My brother had committed actual identity theft. Then my phone buzzed, a voicemail. It was my brother, raging, his voice shaking not with regret but with anger. He called me every name in the book, screaming about how I was a disgusting excuse for a brother and how I was destroying his life over nothing. Then came the threat, "You'll regret this." I saved the voicemail. Not long after, my mom called from an unknown number. She was crying before she even spoke. She begged me to drop everything, said my brother was going to lose everything because of me, that he didn't mean it and it was just a stupid mistake. I didn't respond. She kept talking, saying I was the only one who could fix this, that if I didn't, my brother's life would be ruined, that I was punishing my own blood. That's when I cut her off. He ruined his own life. I'm done being his ATM. Silence, then the sniffles stopped. Just cold, quiet anger. She muttered something about how she never thought I'd turn my back on family, then the call ended. Hours later, my dad finally reached out for the first time in months. He called from his real number. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. He had mostly stayed quiet through all of this, never pushing as hard as my mom, but now, with everything falling apart, he finally spoke up. He didn't yell, he didn't beg, he just sighed and said, "So, this is it? You're really doing this?" Not an apology, not even a question about what my brother had done, just disappointment, like I was the one breaking the family apart. I didn't argue, I didn't explain, I just hung up and then blocked them all. For the first time in my life, I had no contact with my family, no guilt-tripping texts, no sudden emergencies, no random calls demanding money. Silence. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I kept going to therapy, one session at a time. I started unraveling years of guilt, every holiday I had paid for, every favor that was really just an expectation, every manipulation. I finally saw it for what it was. They had never wanted me. They had only wanted what I could give them. With them gone, my finances were truly my own for the first time. No hidden charges, no surprise bills, no sudden Venmo requests. That Christmas, instead of stressing about paying for an entire family vacation, I took my own trip. Just me, no obligations, no guilt, no expectations. And it was the most peaceful holiday I had ever had. A month later, I got a letter from my bank. The fraud investigation was closed. My brother was officially flagged in the system for identity theft, his credit destroyed, his bank accounts monitored. There was nothing he could do to undo it. And then, nothing. No calls, no messages. For the first time in my life, they stopped trying. They finally realized I was done. I deleted them from my social media. No more lurking, no more checking to see what they were saying about me. I stopped explaining myself to extended family. I owed no one an explanation. And just like that, they were gone. No more guilt, no more weight on my shoulders, just peace. For the first time in years, I realized I was finally free. A full year has passed since I cut my family off. No more bank alerts, no more guilt-tripping texts, no more phone calls from unknown numbers. 12 months of silence. At first, I half expected them to find another way back in, to show up at my door, create some new emergency, or beg for one last handout. But they didn't. Instead, they let their actions speak for them. I wasn't checking in on them. But news still found its way to me. A cousin, one of the few people in the family who never bought into my parents' manipulation, mentioned it in passing. My parents were struggling, bills piling up, creditors calling, the financial safety net they had leaned on for years gone. Without my money, they had to figure out how to survive on their own. And unsurprisingly, they weren't doing well. But I wasn't their problem anymore. My brother, the one who had committed fraud using my identity, his credit was wrecked. The fraud report stuck. Banks flagged his name, loan applications denied, the financial safety net he had tried to steal from me completely gone. I didn't hear it from him directly, of course. He knew better than to reach out. Instead, I saw it online, angry Facebook posts about how some people just don't understand what family is about. He never said my name. He didn't have to. Then, out of nowhere, an email from my sister, subject line, "Can we start over?" The message itself was long-winded. She wrote about how time had given her perspective and how family should always find a way back to each other. She never apologized, not once. My cousin had mentioned she had lost her job recently, and I wondered if that had anything to do with this sudden change of heart. She didn't acknowledge the money, the lies, the manipulation, no mention of the fact that she had benefited from my parents stealing from me for years. She wanted a reset, but on her terms. I ignored it. She could rewrite history all she wanted. I wasn't interested in playing along. The crazy thing was, I didn't miss them at all. There was no empty space where they used to be, no guilt, no second guessing. I was free. That holiday season, I didn't sit around wondering how they were spending Christmas without me. I built new traditions with people who actually valued me. Friends who weren't looking at me as an ATM, but as an actual human being. For the first time, the holidays weren't about spending money to make everyone happy. They were about enjoying life. Then came the biggest moment of all. I bought my first home. It was something I had wanted for years, but had always been discouraged from doing. My parents used to tell me I was too young to settle down. My brother used to joke about how it was smarter to rent and keep money fluid. My sister once casually mentioned that buying a house would make it harder to help them out financially. Translation, they didn't want me putting money into something I could call my own, but now, they had no say. I signed the papers, got the keys, and stepped into my own place, completely free of them. At my next therapy session, I mentioned the house. My therapist smiled and said, You've broken the cycle. It was true. For years, I had let guilt and obligation rule my life. I had been trained to believe that my purpose was to take care of them, that my success wasn't really mine, that it belonged to the family. But that was over. I had built something for myself, and they had no part in it. A few weeks later, my mom tried one last time, an email, subject line, "I just want to talk." I didn't open it. There was nothing left to say. That Christmas, I sat in my new home, surrounded by people who actually cared about me. No stress, no expectations, no forced generosity, just peace. A few days later, I saw my family complaining online about money, my brother ranting about how life is unfair, my sister making vague posts about selfish people, my mom dropping Bible verses about forgiveness. Not my problem. I deleted them all. No more checking in, no more curiosity. A year ago, cutting them off felt impossible. Now it felt like the best decision I had ever made. No more guilt, no more obligations, no more being used. I owed them nothing. Cutting off my toxic family wasn't just a choice. It was freedom. A full year of no contact, no guilt tripping, no manipulation, no sudden emergencies, just silence. Then, out of nowhere, an email, subject line, "Urgent family emergency." Against my better judgment, I opened it. The email was a mess of dramatic paragraphs. Dad was in the hospital. It was serious. If I had any heart left, I would come see him before it was too late. It was exactly the kind of message they used to send when they wanted to reel me back in. I wasn't going to fall for it. I reached out to my cousin, the only person in the family I still trusted, asked him if he had heard anything about my dad being on his deathbed. It took him less than 5 minutes to reply. Dad wasn't dying. He had a mild case of pneumonia, but was already recovering. He wasn't in critical condition. I sat there staring at the email. They had lied again. I sent one reply. If he was really dying, you wouldn't have lied about it. Then I blocked the email. The very next day, my brother was back on Facebook. Long-winded posts about how I had abandoned my dying father, how money had turned me into a heartless monster, how some people forget the people who raised them. The comments flooded in. Family members I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. Family is everything. You only get one father. Don't let money come between you and love. Distant relatives started reaching out. Then came the direct messages. Random aunts, distant cousins, people who never once reached out when I was being used like an ATM. Suddenly had a lot to say. You need to be the bigger person. Your dad doesn't have much time left. You're better than this. I ignored them. Then Mom took things up a notch. She started posting Bible verses on Facebook, stuff about forgiveness and how family is forever. The comments section was full of people telling her to stay strong and that God would bring me back to my senses. The whole thing was a performance. A week later, my phone rang. It was Dad. For the first time in over a year, he finally reached out. His voice was rehearsed. He told me he didn't want to fight anymore, that he just wanted me to come home. I asked one question, so if I visit, will I be expected to pay for anything? Silence, then a sigh. We just need a little help. There it was. I pressed him. What's going on? The truth finally came out. They were about to lose the house. They had mismanaged their money again, and now, when they were completely out of options, they suddenly wanted me back. I asked one final question. If I didn't have money, would you still want me back? He fumbled, stuttered through an excuse, then hung up. At my next therapy session, I told my therapist everything. She didn't hesitate. They only reach out when they want something. That's not love. She was right. I didn't reply, no response, no explanations, just silence. I let them lose their minds. The last email I ever got from my brother came a few days later. It was vicious. He called me the worst mistake this family had ever made, said he hoped I'd rot alone. That was the last thing he ever said to me. I laughed, blocked them all, and took myself out to a fancy dinner. They could drown in their own mess. I was finally free. A month passed. No calls, no emails, no desperate attempts to drag me back in. My family had finally gone silent. Then, out of nowhere, a call from a lawyer. At first, I thought it was some mistake. I had no legal issues, no outstanding matters. But when I answered, the attorney explained that my grandfather had recently passed away, and apparently, he had left me something in his will. I wasn't completely shocked. He had always treated me differently from the rest of the family, often checking in on me privately while ignoring the drama. Looking back, maybe he saw this coming all along. It suddenly reminded me of the few times he had pulled me aside at family gatherings, shaking his head when he saw how my parents treated me. I never thought much of it back then, but now it made sense. My grandfather was the only one in the family who never asked me for money. He had always stayed out of the drama, never taken sides. I never expected to get anything from him. If anything, I assumed my mom would inherit everything. But then the lawyer told me something that stopped me in my tracks. Grandpa saw through everything. Turns out, he knew what my family had been doing to me for years, and before he passed, he made sure they didn't get away with it. He left me a substantial amount. The moment the will was read, my mother erupted. She thought she was getting everything. She had probably already planned how she was going to spend it, but now a massive portion had gone to the one person she had cut off. My brother wasn't far behind. His credit was already destroyed, and he had been waiting for some kind of financial miracle to fix his mess. When he realized the money wasn't coming to him, he lost it. They tried arguing, demanding answers, looking for loopholes, but the will was clear. The second I left the lawyer's office, I got a text from my mom. Gone was the anger, the fake righteousness. Now she was suddenly reasonable, understanding. I know we've had our differences, but family should share. She wasn't even trying to hide it. The moment she realized I had something they wanted, I was family again. Not long after, my brother called. His tone was completely different. First, he tried guilt, how I didn't deserve the inheritance, how Grandpa would have wanted us to split it. Then, when I didn't respond, he switched to threats. He claimed that if I didn't share, they'd make sure I regretted it. I ignored him. I went straight back to the lawyer. He wasn't surprised, said this happens all the time when money is involved. His advice, don't engage. If my family wanted to contest the will, let them. And they did. My mom and brother actually tried to challenge it. They claimed my grandfather was confused when he wrote it, that he had clearly meant for the money to go to the family as a whole. What they didn't know, Grandpa had already anticipated this. He had written the will with a lawyer present, and he had included a very specific clause. Anyone who challenged the will would forfeit their inheritance. They had just played themselves. The case didn't even make it far. The lawyer presented solid documentation proving Grandpa was of sound mind when he made his decision. Because my mom and brother tried to contest it, they officially lost their shares entirely. They walked away with nothing. And the best part? I didn't have to do anything. They destroyed their own chances. All I had to do was sit back and watch. A few weeks later, a handwritten letter showed up in my mailbox from my mom. The message, "We didn't mean to hurt you. Let's start over." It was the same cycle all over again. Now that they knew they couldn't take from me, they were trying to worm their way back in. I didn't even read the rest. I shredded it and threw it away. With the inheritance, I finally had a chance to invest in my own future. I put the money into my savings, into travel, into my home, into things that actually benefited me. And the best part? For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. Cutting them off wasn't just the right choice, it was the best thing I ever did.